Good morning, everybody. So I had the pleasure of working with Paul Turner and the Manipulating Biology course, and I designed a unit called From Wolf to Woof. I teach a kindergarten to fourth grade STEM lab here in New Haven. So I see approximately 300 students a week, and they come to me with their classroom teacher, so I co-teach with them, and my class is designed to give them a hands-on experience to enrich the current science instruction, technology, engineering, math, and everything that goes along with the units that teachers are teaching, as well as develop a few units of my own, and From Wolf to Woof happened to be one of them. So I decided to use this unit with third grade because it aligned mostly with the third grade NGSS standards. Now here in Connecticut, we have adopted the NGSS, but yet our local curriculum hasn't quite caught up to where they are. So right now, the classroom teachers use basically science-in-the-box type sets, FOSS Kids, Delta Science modules, that sort of thing. And a number of them are growing on 10 to 12, 15 years old as far as the kids go. And my job was to try to bridge the gap between what's in the NGSS that is not covered in the Connecticut standards so that those kids have an opportunity to learn what's going to be required of them. So these three standards are related to my unit. They involve interpreting data. If you look at some of the key words that are in here, you'd see analyze and interpret data, provide evidence, use evidence to support an explanation, and use evidence to construct an explanation. Those keywords are throughout the NGSS practices, using evidence to build an explanation to not just solve problems, but to answer questions. So in this unit, I started off with a literature connection. Teaching this to third graders, I find this is a pretty grounding experience. Plus my unit's about dogs and wolves, and the kids had a lot to say about dogs that they know and everything else. So some of the third grade teachers took this to heart and they also do a unit on community service since it's a communications magnet school, so they went into a whole unit on like service dogs and things like that. So the kids are getting some additional classroom instruction that kind of connects to my unit. This happened to be a book about a young prehistoric boy. It's kind of a historical fiction. It's loosely based on some speculation of how wolves could have adapted or begun to adapt to live with humans. It's kind of an origin myth type story, I guess is a good way to put it. But it gave us a starting point. And from there, I broke, and we had a good discussion about dogs and what the differences on dogs, and we generated a bunch of different questions about dogs, and some of the questions were like, well, why do dogs look so different? Why can we have a dog that's, this big, and then another one that's huge? So then we started looking at, actual models of skulls. Now in this particular case, I have a model of a wolf skull and a model of a dog skull. And in this particular part of the unit, it started off really simple. While some kids are working on the computer doing a simulation about selective breeding, I worked closely with the group here that had these two models in front of them, and they simply were given a piece of paper that was divided into two sections that said things that are similar, things that are different, and they started making some observations. After that, I asked them to start asking more questions and start refining their explanations. I give them a box of tools that are useful to extend their senses. And then that would be like rulers and string and hand lenses and different things. And I purposely, I give them the models first because I want them thinking about what they see in the model, and I don't want to give them just the box of all the tools because then those come out. But then they start using those tools to refine their ideas. So instead of saying, well, the wolf skull is bigger than the dog skull, now they can start to give some actual numbers to define that and to help construct a better explanation. They could say, well, the wolf skull was 31 centimeters long, while the dog skull was, 18, and add some more detail to what they are doing. Meanwhile, I have others on a selective breeding computer games. The kids loved this too. It serves two purposes. There's no fear of getting something wrong. They have to design a dog through online breeding and matching up. and it had to meet certain requirements, like you want to build a work dog, then they would have to try to breed different types of dogs to develop one that would meet those requirements. So they get a chance to experiment with there. And that's pretty much where I am in the unit right now. I see my students once a week, so each 3 weeks will pass between just doing 3 lessons in my unit, and that's where I am right now. As we continue, I am using a card game type simulation that also goes along with selective breeding for dogs that will encourage them to kind of take what they did on the computer but be able to do this as a game. So the student responses so far, they were very enthusiastic. They loved working with the models and being able to have something to hold on. My room is nicknamed the Discovery Room, and I don't want to lose sight of that. In the Discovery Room, the kids get a chance to explore and discover these ideas, start asking questions about things, and they often find, and this is the number one piece of feedback that I get, not only for this lesson, but for another one, is they're like, Mr. Ward, I asked one question, and now I have like 10 more questions that I need to work on to do this. And that's what I want to see them doing. I want to see them digging deeper into the concepts and start asking these questions and then trying to come up with their own answer. And as part of this national initiative and also the local Teachers Institute, I feel like I have the knowledge and the background information, the expertise to be able to support kids with asking those questions and getting them to think about what goes beyond just what we're studying today on the objectives listed on the board. So that concludes my presentation, but I just want to say I've really enjoyed the experiences here. It has definitely led to improved instruction on my behalf, and the students see it, the administrators in the school see it, and definitely I see it and feel it because I live it every day. So, thank you.